Solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December 4th completes a cycle of Gemini-Sagittarius eclipses that lasted for the last 18 months and brings new beginnings in spiritual growth, awareness, and faith. I'm here to talk about it and break it down for each sign. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer. I work in whole sign system and specialize in natal and predictive readings. If you're interested, you can book a reading with me in the link down below. I'm also currently writing December horoscopes, so if you're interested in getting one for yourself, you can reach out to me on Instagram. There's a link down there as well. So let's talk about this solar eclipse in Sagittarius. It's a big deal because it's the last one in the cycle and we're not going to get another one until 2029. So for a really long time. We're going to get full moons and new moons in Sagittarius, but no eclipses for a while. So solar eclipse is a new moon, but the new moon being the conjunction between the sun and the moon. When eclipse happens, the moon actually blocks the light of the sun from reaching Earth. That's why you don't see the sun fully. It gets blocked by the moon. This one is happening at 2:42 a.m. Eastern. So in the US, you're not going to see it, but you will see it in the other parts of the world. And it is like a new moon, but it's the new moon on steroids. It's like major new beginnings, things that aren't in your control, things that are karmic. And you know, this is a longer cycle. The cycle has started in May 2020. More immediately, we had a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius in May 26th this year. And the longer cycle got started in May 2020. So it's a new moon, so it's new beginnings, but it's a new moon after a really long cycle of revisiting Gemini and Sagittarius. And we are entering a new chapter. We already had a lunar eclipse in Taurus on November 19th, and the nodes are fully shifting in Scorpio and Taurus in January. So we are at this, at the major turning point. What have we learned? Look back at your life, take a walk down memory lane. It's been a major year for many of us, right? Like if you look at May 2020 and you look at life right now, 9 to 5 is no longer a thing. Working from the office is no longer a thing. So many of us are extremely dependent on technology. We talk to each other on Zoom. We are spending a lot more time on social media. We're getting our news on social media. TikTok is blowing up, has been a thing for a long time. So a lot of things happened globally, but I think even personally, a lot of people have felt, people lost their jobs, people lost their family members, and there's been a sense of redefining our values, redefining our beliefs. And that's ultimately what Sagittarius is about, right? Like Sag is the sign ruled by Jupiter. It's about faith and wisdom and pursuing new goals. And it's a fire sign. So it's very much about action, but it's about philosophy and kind of like, what can we learn? How can we expand more? So this eclipse is happening on the South Node, and South Node deals with release and past and more spiritual things, less so material things, while North Node has been in Gemini, and Gemini house in your chart may have brought you a lot more material changes. Like, I'm a Libra rising, and having eclipses on the North Node in my 9th house made me a citizen. Like I became a US citizen not too long ago. So really major, exciting changes in my life. So whichever house is Gemini, you could see a lot more physical proof of, this last cycle, and Sagittarius house will be a lot more connected to your worldview. Like how has your worldview changed, and how can you implement the lessons you have learned? How can you release things that maybe you're still holding on to that are outdated, and find a new normal, define your own new normal, right? Like if you don't like the job that you have, you can work online now. You can figure out a new beginning for yourself. So definitely a lot of energy of like deep realizations. The eclipse is conjunct Mercury. You know, Mercury Cazimi happened on the 28th. It's about to happen while I'm recording this, but 28th is the Cazimi moment, that moment of deep insight and realization. And it is Mercury still in the vicinity of the eclipse. So deep insights, deep understanding. There's an aspect to Saturn, sign aspect to Jupiter. So kind of like an ability to be focused on long term, but also still excited and positive and optimistic. The eclipse is also ruled by Jupiter, that is soon going to leave Aquarius and go back into Pisces. Another really exciting transit that I think most of us are looking forward to. And then finally, this eclipse is also squaring Neptune. And Neptune is both spiritual and altruistic, but it's also sometimes confusing. So I think while eclipses are dramatic points of change, you don't always understand the change in the moment. You may be focused on other things. Maybe there's, you know, things in your near vicinity that you're thinking about, but you're not quite realizing. So there may be a sense of loss, confusion, maybe misunderstandings if it deals with your houses of relationships. But the best advice I can ever give you with the eclipses is to trust that the universe has your back. You know, trust the universe, trust me when I tell you that it's best to surrender, lean into self-care, take care of your beliefs. Perhaps for many of us, I think it could be a great time to introduce a spiritual practice into our life. Start meditating, start writing a gratitude journal, you know, say thank you for your own perseverance and optimism and all the times that you didn't give up, and how, you know, you handled the last 18 months could be a wonderful opportunity. So surrender and allow things to unravel. It might be a while before you fully understand the results of the eclipse. You know, it's a longer cycle, definitely at least like a month before, a month after. And don't be too hard on yourself if you are not quite there yet. So let's take a look at the 12 signs. Look at your rising sign, because normally that's what the horoscopes are written for. But you can also check out your sun and your moon signs. Perhaps those resonate with you a little bit better. You know, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So if you are an Aries rising, this eclipse is happening in your 9th house. And there's a kind of like a revision of your faith and your beliefs, even more so than anyone else, because 9th house deals with the expansion of the world and your philosophies and how your worldviews really create your reality. Right? So maybe it's the time for you to explore Buddhism, or sign up for a class, or like, you know, if you've been doing the same job for the last 18 months and you're not happy with what you're doing, and then you go outside and you take pictures and that brings you a lot more joy, maybe you can explore that. And now after staying home and working from home for 18 months, you're ready to take that next step. There might be opportunities coming your way around education, teaching, mentoring. Perhaps you meet a guide, or you met someone like, you know, a teacher archetype type person that you can pursue new projects with. If you are someone who is a lawyer or dealing with legal proceedings, there might be significant change there. Like I mentioned, a lot more spiritual, a lot more introspective, less material. That's why it might be harder to fully get what's happening in the moment, but trust that you are on the right path. If you are a Taurus rising, this eclipse is happening in your 8th house of shared values, finances, resources, and healing. So right away, when it comes to healing, perhaps, you know, for Taurus risings, Uranus has been in your 1st, Saturn has been in your 10th. There's been a lot of work, action, a lot of pressures, and a lot of desires to start something new, a lot of desires to redefine yourself. So I think with the solar eclipse in the 8th house, you may get a chance to release something, to release some of your fears and anxieties, and just ask yourself, what is stopping you from reaching your full potential? Do you need help from someone? Maybe it's the time to reach out to a friend, a partner, and like collaborate with someone. Maybe it's the time to ask for a loan and, take that leap and start your own business. There could be also changes in the life of your partner because 8th house deals with other people's resources. Maybe they receive an inheritance. Maybe they complete a major healing period, if they are if they're dealing with some kind of like mental crisis, having a health issue, you may see a turn for that. Whenever there's action in the 8th house, there might also be a topic of mortality because the 8th house deals with death. It's not always literal death. It could be more spiritual, like a part of you is dying, you're letting go of something, or you're just facing limitations. You're just realizing that like, hey, my body is not forever. Like I need to take better care of it. Or like, hey, I've been neglecting my mind. Maybe it's time to take better care of it. So definitely focus on your mental health, and maybe also a good time to start therapy and journal and meditate and like focus on your inner peace. If you are a Gemini rising, this eclipse is happening in your 7th house. So it's all about significant relationships for you. As a Gemini rising, North Node has been in your 1st house, and there's been a lot of questions of who are you, who you want to be, where do you want to live, everything like that. And this eclipse in the 7th house is just asking you whether the people in your life are the right people. What about the advice they're giving you? Is this advice for your good or is it for their good? Are they confusing you, right? Like, are agreements you have in your relationships fair or not? This could be your opportunity to redefine relationships and redefine dynamics that you have with other people. There's also a possibility of new partnership as romantic, but also business, a new collaboration, perhaps on something more spiritual, or just even like a new friendship. Once again, doesn't have to be something that will bring you lots of money, but something that will make you feel more secure. And if you are in a relationship that is already on the rocks, maybe it's time for you to let that go in order to find a new one. Changes in the life of your partner are a possibility as well. For Cancer risings, the solar eclipse is happening in the 6th house, and 6th house deals with health, routines, daily work, enjoying kind of everyday, mundane, taking care of groceries, taking care of laundry, anything like that. So it could bring a sense, because it's spiritual, right? Because it's on the South Node, it could bring a sense of dissatisfaction with the work that you're doing or with your daily routines. Perhaps you're not finding enough joy in it. And maybe this is your call to come up with something new, right? Like to change your path somehow. Even if that requires cleansing your space, getting rid of old things, bringing something new into your environment. Or another possibility I see here, because it's the house of health, maybe you recommit to your health. Maybe, if you are a Cancer rising, eclipses have been happening between your 12th, like spiritual health, and your 6th, physical health. So I think you are called to find a better balance, maybe prioritize rest, maybe just take a break for a bit. My best friend is a Cancer rising, and she's been really busy with lots of things, but also kind of like confused. And I think when you're feeling confused, sometimes it might be because too many things are happening next to you, and it's good to take a step back and rethink and revisit. If you are a Leo rising, you are redefining joy. It's time for you to, I think, reevaluate where you find creative inspiration. Have you, been working on a project that is not satisfying? Have you been allowing other people to tell you what's exciting for them, and maybe you've strayed off your path at some point and you kind of discover it, or you followed someone else's idea, and now is the time to take it back and ask yourself, what lights your inner fire? What is something that you're passionate about? So definitely use the last 18 months as a source of inspiration too, right? Like maybe there's a story that can be told there. Maybe you use your personal experience to write a book or a screenplay. Changes around romantic relationships are possible. Perhaps you're also reevaluating how you should be treated and what kind of partner you desire. And that could bring a sense of like cleansing all the people in your life that don't satisfy that and don't, match up your expectations. And if you are a parent, there might be new beginnings in the lives of your children. If you're trying for the child, there's a possibility of getting pregnant in the next 6 months. And of course, children can also be your inner child. And maybe it's just a question of finding new ways to have joy and fun in your life. For Virgo risings, this eclipse is happening in the 4th house, and it brings new beginnings in the realm of home and family, as well as your inner sense of comfort and security. So when it comes to the home, maybe you are moving. Maybe, you're reconnecting with your family member and getting like a new start, having more honest conversations with family members, or releasing an old dynamic. Have you been always triggered by your parents telling their friends about you, and maybe you realize that this no longer matters to you and like it's time to move on? There might be a sense of redefining your values or your beliefs in life, right? Like what is truly yours, Sagittarius, right? Like what makes you passionate and excited, and what is something that you've absorbed from your parents or you just took from your childhood because you saw your parents interact a certain way. I think this could be a great opportunity for all Virgo risings to look back at your choices in life and look back at your dynamics and friendships and relationships, and perhaps remember that you are not those experiences. They happen to you, but you're so much more, and you can make a new version of yourself. Every day is a choice. So every day you choose to be who you are, but it's not a static thing. All I'm trying to say is that change is possible and you are in control. If you are a Libra rising, this eclipse is happening in your 3rd house. And the eclipse in the 3rd house is your immediate environment, and it can bring a lot more communication, but it can also brings a change in your communication. I think this could be a lovely opportunity for you to figure out what you're saying, what is your story, and whether the story you're telling is authentic, whether the story you're telling is truthful, and perhaps you can, be less of what other people expect you to be and more of who you want to be. And of course, with the 3rd house comes technical skills, your immediate knowledge, your hands, your technology. So there might be new beginnings there. Like if you decide that you want to start a website or you want to start a business that sells jewelry, for example, with the eclipse in the 3rd house, this will be the time for you to buy the equipment, upgrade your technology, anything like that. But I think, once again, because it's less material and it's more spiritual, I think here you are rethinking the way you talk, rethinking your values, rethinking your mind, and coming up almost like with a new definition of yourself. Seems to be a topic across all the signs. If you are a Scorpio rising, this eclipse is happening in your 2nd house, and 2nd house, of course, deals with finances, but it also deals with your values, with your sense of self-worth. And perhaps you're looking, over the course of the last 18 months, you have now come to look at money differently. Perhaps, when the pandemic started, maybe you were scared for your job and you were just like holding on really tightly. But as the energy has shifted, you realize that you will survive. You have savings, you have skills, you will always find the work that you need. So now it's not about the material proof. It's not about, having the most money or making the most money or just like having the job that gives you a paycheck every Friday, and it's a lot more about feeling happy and feeling secure. There might be also new opportunities professionally coming for you, and once again, something that is less driven by the material gains and a lot more driven by your inner peace and your inner spirituality. And there might be, with this eclipse, a positive increase in your self-esteem and just like the way you see yourself, the way you view yourself. For For Sagittarius risings, this is a major eclipse because it's happening in your first house, and there's a chance that you are releasing something old. Look back at the last 18 months. For many of you, there's been significant changes in relationships. Maybe you've let go of a relationship, maybe you've entered a new one, maybe you're getting married, and there's a time for you now to redefine yourself and perhaps release some of the old ideas you have of yourself, even your old look, right? Like, or your old habits. Like, have you gotten in a relationship with someone, but you still hold on to your own apartment even though you spend all the time in theirs? You know, do you have like certain things that your partner doesn't like, but you're like, this is mine? So perhaps this is the change for you to let go of something. There might be new beginnings in your health. And I think also just like redefining your own worth. Like, if you felt too tied up in the partnerships, or you felt too kind of like, you know, entangled in your work life, in your friendships, family, all of that, this could be a great chance for you to come up with an idea, start a project that is truly yours, that really depends on you. Perhaps paint a painting, start a website, start a business. Anything that makes you happy and excited will be wonderful right now. For Capricorn risings, this eclipse is happening in your 12th house. So Capricorn rising together with Cancer rising, there's been a lot of action between your houses of spiritual health and mental health, and this eclipse is new beginnings in the realm of spiritual health. So 12th house is an interesting place. It could be tough, right? Because it's a place where we have no control. It's been classically called the house of losses, the house of self-undoing. So with the light of the eclipse shining on that house, you are called to listen to your intuition, to examine your faith, examine your beliefs, examine your tendencies. Like, have you been, I don't know, drinking a bit much? Have you been talking to yourself negatively? Have you been defining your worth based on the money you make, right? Like, what makes you happy and secure? Like, how are you sabotaging yourself? It's all about you. Like, it's considered the house of hidden enemies, but the hidden enemy most of the times is like, it's been me all along, you know, that meme. Or I think it's the New Girl. Yeah, it's probably a new quote. So a New Girl quote, like, this enemy has been me all along. So this eclipse is your way to find your inner peace, and in order to find that inner peace, you have to be honest with yourself first, and maybe, you know, journal, meditate, think about things that are negative in your life that you are holding on to. Perhaps this is the time for you to start therapy if you cannot fully understand it on your own. Start a spiritual practice, even, you know, I mentioned this before, but like a gratitude journal, like just practicing trust a little bit more, right? Like, as a Capricorn rising, you're very grounded, you're very hardworking, you believe in the power of hard work and dedication, but there are things that are outside of that. There are things that are guiding you and things that are working on your behalf, and, you know, like kind of like focus on building trust, introduce a spiritual practice in your life. Try to relax more. Don't overexert yourself around this time. Like, December 4th should be the day on your calendar to just chill. And yeah, think about building a better version of yourself that is maybe just nicer to yourself, right? Kinder to yourself, less strict with yourself. Try to be your best friend. If you are an Aqua rising, this eclipse is happening in your 11th house. 11th house deals with your friendships, your social networks, and your hopes and dreams. So when it comes to friendships, perhaps you are finding new people. There might be a chance that you are letting go of your old friendships, or you just feel like the old friendships haven't been satisfying. You know, what has changed in your life in the last 18 months? Maybe you moved. One of my Aqua rising friends has moved to Florida recently, and she was just saying, she's also, funny enough, in the 11th house annual perfection year, but she was saying how it feels a little bit lonely because she doesn't have many friends there. So this is your time to find your community. Your life in the last 18 months has changed significantly. Maybe some of you have started working from home and you relied on your colleagues for that social support and social interaction. Some of you maybe moved and now you're trying to find your place of belonging. So be more proactive, take a yoga class, go up to strangers at the grocery store, find ways to connect with people that surround you. This could also be your opportunity to use your knowledge or use your experience of the last 18 months to start a new project, perhaps, to volunteer, to start some kind of like social work project, anything that betters the world. Maybe you're changing your careers, right? Like maybe you were an accountant and now you can be a yoga teacher. Find that something that excites you and follow your dreams. Finally, if you are a Pisces rising, this eclipse is happening in your house of career and reputation and status. And there might be a sense over the last 18 months that what you're doing is not that enjoyable anymore. Maybe there's a lot of drama at work. Maybe there's some kind of, behind the scenes, people backstabbing each other, or it just feels like it's no longer who you are. So there might be a big change coming professionally. Maybe you're getting ready to take that leap and start something on your own, or just like look for a new professional expression. There's definitely, with the solar eclipse in Sagittarius in your 10th house, is a possibility of changes, big changes professionally. And you're likely going to see them in the next 6 months. Don't expect them to happen just right away. And it's also your opportunity to be like super blunt and honest with yourself and ask yourself, why haven't you taken that leap yet? Why haven't you signed up for that class yet? Why haven't you looked for a new job yet? So, be honest with yourself, look for those new opportunities, come up with a physical plan like this. If that's something that helps you, your descendant is in Virgo. So maybe coming up with a physical plan will be really helpful. Like, what are the tangible steps you can take? And don't, if the amount of the steps scares you, don't get distracted or frustrated by the amount of steps. Just focus on taking it one tiny step at a time. Maybe you do one step every week. Break it up for yourself and be ready to be the new, better, more authentic version of yourself. Have a great solar eclipse. I hope this video was insightful and helpful. Leave me a thumbs up and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.